Newsgram, 11th of February 2024, IMF announces Maldives' high debt as a BRI partner. As a debt trap, China has ensnared the Maldives and purchased its governing party with substantial bribes. As one of the initial South Asian nations to participate in Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, the Maldives, an archipelago situated in the Indian Ocean, is at risk of debt distress, as assessed by the International Monetary Fund. Countries that cannot fulfill their financial obligations and necessitate debt restructuring are referred to as such. As its new president, Mohamed Muizzu, strengthens ties with China, which has pledged to aid the minuscule nation, the IMF issued a warning on February 6. In November, the Chinese-backed Muizzu assumed power after his victory over former President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih, who had expressed apprehensions regarding the financial implications of Chinese construction endeavors within the nation. A decade ago, during a pro-Beijing administration, China constructed housing developments on land reclaimed from the sea and a 4-lane bridge linking the capital, Male, to the international airport on an entirely different island. These infrastructure initiatives constituted China's initial foray into the Maldives. Even the previous administration had raised concerns about the Maldives' grave debt to China, Songkalp Gurjar, an assistant geopolitics and international relations professor at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education in India, told VOA. According to him, the Maldives has a gross domestic product of slightly more than $5 billion, which makes its high debt problematic, especially since the nation needs foreign currency to import fuel and food, which are both necessities. According to data from the World Bank, the $1.37 billion owed by the Maldives to China represents approximately 40% of the nation's public debt. China is thus its most significant bilateral creditor. In its review, the IMF estimated that the Maldivian economy would expand by approximately 5% this year but urged urgent policy adjustment due to the country's high risk of external and overall debt distress and continued vulnerability. No mention was made of China. Muizzu stated last month, during a visit to Beijing, that he had urged Chinese authorities to restructure the repayment of loans extended to his nation. The stop indicated that he is shifting away from the pro-India stance of the previous administration and toward fostering closer ties with Beijing. Muizzu lauded the Chinese infrastructure projects in his nation and expressed his eagerness to investigate partnership opportunities under China's Belt and Road Initiative, including expanding the nation's principal airport and commercial port. He referred to Beijing as one of our closest allies and development partners. According to analysts, the country's high debt makes it the most recent South Asian nation whose economy has been strained by Chinese loans for construction projects. China has constructed highways, bridges, and ports in Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan as part of an Asian trade and transit corridor. Sri Lanka's inability to settle its foreign debt with foreign currency in 2022 was partially attributed to its substantial borrowings from China. Allegations that Beijing's loans to developing economies cause their economic difficulties are refuted. South Asian nations turn to China to participate in its Belt and Road Initiative due to their enormous infrastructure deficits, according to Manoj Joshi, senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation in New Delhi, who spoke to VOA. The logical conclusion is that whoever provides the funds should construct the infrastructure, Joshi explained. However, this rarely occurs. Projects are poorly planned and financed, which becomes a burden. The Maldives unquestionably has a debt problem due to loans obtained for Chinese projects, presumably extended for strategic purposes. However, I believe that China and other nations are now more circumspect than previously, he continued. Despite having a population of only 500,000, the Maldives possess considerable geostrategic importance because over 1,100 minuscule islands in the Indian Ocean are situated along vital waterways through which a substantial portion of Chinese trade passes. Local media in the Maldives reported earlier this week that Muizzu stated in Maldives that there were challenges in executing development initiatives because we are attempting to manage debt. Fragile is the scenario in the Maldives. There has been concern regarding its susceptibility to Chinese debt trap diplomacy, therefore, further borrowing would exacerbate its vulnerability, Gurjar explains. Ultimately, it is a small nation with a minuscule population that relies heavily on tourism. In addition to apprehensions regarding its substantial debt, the Maldives is confronted with the possibility that its primary revenue generator, tourism, could be adversely affected by strained relations with India. An international dispute ensued between the two nations following derogatory remarks made by three ministers of the Maldives, all of whom were Hinduophobic, regarding Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It incited a social media campaign titled Boycott Maldives in India, which attracted the most tourists to the country's tropical shores last year. Muizzu has urged China to increase the number of visitors to the nation.